Hi, this should be a quick video on our mind and our body and how our mind and our emotions are a lot of the time dictated by our physical senses and how we feel a lot of our emotions through our physical sensations and how our emotional reactions are almost a force feedback when it comes to reactions of physical pain and so on and so forth. So when we're feeling psychological pain or distress or some kind of emotional pain, a lot of the time we're feeling the physical responses to certain visceral reactions based on circumstances through conditioning which we've created for ourselves. And then we feel, and it gets worse, and a lot of the pain that we feel, or the emotion or the suffering that we feel from these reactions, comes from a physical reaction. Say, for example, you're depressed about something, it causes your heartbeat to go up because of the stress that comes from that, the pain that comes from that. Or imagine that you're paranoid, you have schizophrenia, your heart starts beating, you start feeling this build-up in physical tension when you experience this kind of a delusion, when you feel like someone's after you or something like that. A lot of these reactions that we have are very visceral, and we're just experiencing this kind of emotional pain through our vicariously through our physical senses. And I think it's almost like it's a force feedback mechanism where it's constantly looping. I'm feeling emotional pain or emotional or psychological suffering. I'm suffering psychologically, and a lot of that has to do with if you're feeling anxiety. The anxiety mostly comes from the fact that you're feeling some kind of build-up in tension, some hypertension. Your your heart is beating really fast. I mean, there's countless examples when you're reacting. Somatoform disorders that you experience have to do with a physical reaction, such as feeling an ailment somewhere physically, or an understanding an ailment in your head, in which, like, say, something like some kind of disorder. Like, I know this is more a psychology kind of video. I'm talking about, like, you look in the mirror and you see a delusion or hallucination. It causes distress, which causes the thing that you saw was something that was distorted, which was caused by a psychological neurology distorting an image, and then you physically react and you feel the physical reaction, and that causes emotional reactions, like the emotional reaction. And most of our emotional reaction is just a reaction to these physical reactions, this acknowledgement of pain, and it's in a force feedback mechanism, like the crying in reaction to a pain, and of a psychological pain, and the of a psychological pain and a physical pain are almost one in one, because our emotions are pretty much how we feel, and how we're psychologically, and how we feel emotionally. But how we feel emotionally is just mainly a reaction to physical distress, or a physical kind of reaction that we've experienced beforehand, and that's how we're reacting to is this physical experience, and then we're reacting emotionally, and that's what our emotions are. It's almost like the cause and effect of our biology. The cause is the physical harm and a buildup, and our emotion is like the force feedback mechanism, the effect, which causes the effect to become worse and worse. If it becomes worse and worse, or it's a relieving mechanism, such as crying after experiencing some kind of distress. So I would say that mostly our emotions, our psychological distresses, if anything, if I can come and conclusively say anything, is just it's something we vicariously feed through in many circumstances through our physical or our actual being, like, say, a physical harm that we experience. It's something like vicarious through that kind of form that we're experiencing, the pain or the suffering we're experiencing. And I'm thinking a lot of it has to do with a build-up. It's a visceral reaction we have to begin with. Obviously, we're just reacting creatures, reacting beings, and then react viscerally to a stimulus that we find negative. It's emotionally negative, but we're obviously feeling a lot of physical tension and build-up, and that's the thing that obviously makes us feel it. It exacerbates the problem that we're experiencing, if anything, and at the very least, that's what it does. Same thing with anxiety and things like that. It's hard to imagine feeling bad, or the lack of a feeling bad, without some kind of physical tension that you have up inside of you, something going on, some physical ailment, like a stomach ache. If you're build up of something that causes a lot of negative physical stimuluses that you experience inside of yourself in reaction to these psychological reactions and stimuluses, these things that cause visceral emotional reaction that we experience. So we're experiencing, so the emotions that we experience, while not entirely controlled by these physical reactions we experience, they're exacerbated by these physical reactions we experience, such as anxiety and depression and paranoid delusions, things like that. These distressing states of mind or even emotional, hearing something that's negative, hearing that, for example, that your wife cheated on you, or hearing some negative information, and it's like this association that you feel, and then this association, this visceral reaction that you feel, it causes physical reactions. You start emotionally feeling things. You start viscerally feeling psychological, physical tensions. Psychological, obviously, everything's mind, and everything is controlled by our mind, but everything's a physical reaction, sort of like everything's feeding off of each other. Our whole body is controlled by neurology, or these chemicals moving, but it's all physical, and that's what's controlling our emotions, which are ethereal things that we can't necessarily put our hands on. So it's all a kind of a mechanism that works off of each other. Same thing with our emotions and our physical pain. It works the same way. It's physical, but it's also ethereal. This projection, the projection's ethereal, something that we can't necessarily put our hands on. It's not tangible necessarily, but it's tangible in the representation of the things that are making this. It's the reaction that's working, and the reaction. Our reactions, such as emotional reaction, the projection, our emotions, but also the projection is in our physical being as well when we feel some kind of pain or have our leg cut off or something like that. So it's all psychological, it's all part of neurology, but it's all physical as well. And when we're feeling emotional pain, we're feeling physical pain, but when we're feeling physical pain, it's because of our neurology and our awareness, the psychological awareness based off of the neurology, this ethereal thing that's letting us recognize this or the idea of an ethereal thing, experience the reaction that's causing this complex thing that's causing this interesting and unique reaction is causing us to recognize the pain in ourselves anyway. So you can look at it from both ways, but it's a physical thing in the end, and the projection is all we are is a projection, just watching things, self-awareness, awareness, spatial awareness, this recognition, seeing things going on. And it wouldn't necessarily be the same if we were just reactionary things, sort of like a baby, or some kind of very crude mechanism or crude sentient thing, not really sentient, but crude, like a cell thing, just reacting with each other and just taking its course. It still eats, it still reproduces, it still consumes and reproduces. It just isn't aware. It's not really feeling the sensation that it's reciprocating in the environment and so on and so forth, that it's it doesn't have any projection. And the projection is what matters, and that's the thing that the projection is what allows us to feel pain. If we were just husks moving around, but we were consuming and reproducing anyway, like cells, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't be mattering because we're not sentient. We're not feeling anything. It's just a reaction, as opposed to something that's actually aware of something that's negative happening, and a negative sensation. So we're physically feeling something. It's ethereal. The projection's all that matters. And without this projection, our physical state or physical sentience, the sentience is exactly what makes it matter. And without that, nothing matters, except for the projection of everything, except for the projection that we have on other things is the only thing that makes anything else matter that we're experiencing. So, so our emotions are our projection. Our emotions are real, they're inside of us, but our projections that we base on the value outside of us are the thing that causes some kind of emotional pain and things like that, which is a physical phenomenon caused by physiology that's causing emotional pain, not just in your brain, but the reaction that it has in the rest of your body, and so on and so forth. And obviously everything, the mind, this ethereal thing, controls the importance of the structure that we're in. The ability to sensate suffering and feel things and be in a bad or good state, and the fact that everything's physical shows that our emotions are a physical thing, and our projection is caused by something physical, and the projection is what makes everything else matter. So it works in both ways. It's a circular thing. It's a feedback thing. And our emotions are pretty much physical reactions, but they're physical reactions not based on the ethereal emotion itself, but based on the physical reactions from the rest of our body causing the reactions. Sort of like your brain doesn't have any nerve endings, but everything else has nerve endings in your body, and that's where you start feeling the physical pain in reaction to these visceral reactions caused by this projection, this emotional thing that causes the physical pain, and the physical pain is what creates this projection that we're experiencing. So to sum it all up, I want to make sure I get all this right. make sure I get it. Convey the point good enough so it doesn't get lost in translation. Our physiology is what causes our brain, everything else, the experiences we feel, the pain we feel in our body. This physiology that makes up our body is the thing that that causes this in our brain structure, the chemicals moving, the synapses. Causing electricity and so on and so forth to make us sentient, this ethereal thing, this projection. And this projection is what makes everything else matter. Everything's obviously metaphysically, and this projection is what makes everything else matter, and that's exactly what we're experiencing. And it's the projection makes this sentience, this awareness, this understanding, this feeling thing, the understanding of feeling, the difference between us and a cell. It reproduces and consumes, it moves, but it's not sentient. It doesn't have this awareness. It's not feeling, being controlled by these crude forces. By the cell is like a crude force that's within us, but it's still something that's producing, reproducing, and consuming, but it doesn't have a sentience. It's not aware, no neurology. And our neurology is made up of physical processes, and that's what causes this ethereal thing that we call this projection of reality from our point of view. That where the light reflects off of something else and hits us back in the eye. We're a force feedback mechanism in this reality that we're living in, and this projection is what makes all of this other stuff matter. And the thing I was talking about with them that makes all this physical being matter, and it wouldn't matter if it wasn't feeling anything, because that's the only value in the universe, is a feeling, sentient thing, experiencing different sensations such as suffering and comfort. So when we are experiencing, what makes these things matter is our sentience, and what causes this sentience is a physical thing, and the emotion thing, that's the thing I want to get back to, is the emotional thing is built up of all these physical processes, and the emotion, obviously a projection, is emotions are caused, and at least caused by this physical reaction that we have, not with the environment inside ourselves, based on this reaction to a negative circumstance or situation, say emotionally. The example I use is obviously something like these reactions, this depression, anxiety, and things like that. It's a buildup, and like say, a panic attack is caused by a buildup of your central what is it? Your immune system buildup. It's these things, this buildup in your body that causes your body to this physical process of building up. Adrenaline building up in your body, and it causes this reaction. It's a physical reaction based off other processes happening in your body, causing this projection of discomfort, making it feel like it's an emotional reaction when it's all these processes happening inside of you, having a reaction with your brain, causing this psychological recognition of discomfort happening in the rest of your body. And the same thing with your so the projection that you have, and our emotions are a reaction to this physiology that it's made out of to begin with. And what makes it matter is this projection that we have on the rest, and this projection of sentience and value, and how we view value, this awareness and thing like that causes the rest of this thing to mean anything. So that's how everything means something, and how this force feedback mechanism of the physiology causing the ethereal sentience, the thing that matters, and the thing that matters, it causes all this, the physiology that causes this sentience, and the sentience which makes everything else matter. That's how the mechanism works, the force feed mechanism, and how everything means something in the end. So I think I made my point clear enough. So thank you, and until next time, bye.